Welcome to the Freebirth podcast, a supportive space for people who are learning, exploring, and celebrating their autonomous choices in childbirth. Together, we'll unpack truths, share personal stories, and claim our ability to birth freely and intuitively. Here's your host, Emily Saldea.
Happy New Year, everyone! I hope you are all feeling the creativity and excitement that comes with the turn of a new year. I certainly am. I got to be honest, I'm pretty stoked to be leaving 2018 in my dust and am feeling really lit up by all the new creations that Freebirth Society has on our plate this coming year. I also cannot believe that this podcast is quickly approaching 1 million downloads. Just wow. Thank you for sharing in this mission, for feeling the call, to reclaim birth and for doing your important work in the world. And if you are aching for a community that gets it, come join us in our private space. It's where myself and my team are hanging out these days, and it's exclusively full of radical, wild, incredible women. We're really just missing you. So you can apply on our website at freebirthsociety.com. Okay, lots of love to all of you. I have a super special episode for you today. We are kicking off 2019 with an absolutely beautiful story, woman, and family. If you follow me on Instagram, you may notice that I'm a tiny bit obsessed with Hannah Grace and her adorable family. So I'm really excited to bring you this episode all about Hannah Grace and her deeply spiritual, deeply intentional journey of her pregnancy and birth with her first baby, Koa. She speaks to how her birth renewed her vows with the universe and how she said yes to all of the work intrinsic to walking this path. She shares how she found fearlessness and painlessness in her meditation practice, and that preparing for her birth felt like preparing for a sacred ceremony. And stay tuned till the very end because we have included a little treat.
My journey of motherhood started when I was a very small child. I always watched The Baby Story on on TV, and I was like obsessed with it. I just loved watching babies being born. So I definitely first thing I saw was babies being born in hospitals. And then my mother's birth story of my older sister was a traumatic hospital-induced birth because she went over the 40 weeks and my sister was a large baby and all of the things. So she had an induced birth. She was claimed like failure to dilate, um, had an emergency C-section, and my sister was born with a nuchal cord, and my mom was, the whole story that she tells is like her cord was wrapped around her neck and she almost died and all these things. They took my sister away from my mom, fed her a bottle. My mom was pissed. Um, wouldn't let her see her because her heart rate was up. And she was like, well, give me my baby and my heart rate will go down.
Right? Wait, they wouldn't give her the baby because the mother's heart was up?
Yeah, because
That's
my
fucking
mother's,
nuts!
they had them separated and like in different rooms.
Oh my God.
Luckily my dad was holding my sister, but like I said, they fed her a bottle, so my mom had trouble like breastfeeding her the whole time. So that whole thing. So she was very traumatized and therefore chose to have a planned C-section with me, and probably because they told her she had to.
Right.
Um, so I was a planned C-section, and that was just like the story I grew up hearing all the time. My mom like really liked telling us the birth stories. So that was kind of scary for me as a child, and
Yeah.
so I always kind of grew up thinking I would like potentially have a C-section. And fast forward to 2 years ago, I was at a women's gathering, and Alexandra, who is also on the Freebirth Society podcast, was there. Her son was I think like 8 months old at the time, and she shared her birth story around the fire that she had free birthed up in the yurt in the mountains, far away from a hospital, snowed in. Um,
Her
and
man's on mescaline, the
yeah,
dog's midwifing her, the whole thing's fucking awesome.
oh yeah, the whole thing, milk squirting out of her nipples, and her dog sitting there. It's amazing.
Placenta tacos. I mean, it's really just it has every piece.
Yeah, she's amazing. And I heard that
Mhm.
story and I was just like, "Oh my god, like that is the most incredible one of the most incredible stories I've ever heard." Like
Mhm.
birth story or just any story that was amazing. And it just opened my eyes to an entire new idea of giving birth, which is crazy that that's a new idea. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, so I heard that story and it just resonated so deep with me and it felt so just yes. I was just like, yes, I am going to give birth freely with, without um medical assistance as far away from the hospital as possible. And um yeah, that just like I thought about her birth story so much and really started to think about when I was going to have kids and all this stuff. Pretty much 2.5 years later, I am pregnant with my partner, Tyler. And he had already known that I wanted to have a free birth beforehand. And
Was he
he,
was he cool with it?
yeah, totally cool with it. He's all about like, returning as much to our just like innate and intuition and instincts as possible. Um, when I met him, he like refused to use silverware, and he like stayed with his hands. I'm like, you're amazing, this is great. So he was totally on board. But then I get pregnant, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my god, like I'm scared. What if something goes wrong? I really start to like question all these things that I was so sure about. Um, and I hadn't thought about if I wanted to do my prenatal care by myself yet or not. I didn't really have um, like the I guess what the Free Birth Society podcast has like brought to my awareness that they may seem like they're like you're getting assistance, but really like you don't have very much say.
Yeah.
I hadn't really thought about that, so I did seek out a midwife at a birthing center, and luckily they're like the epitomes of like the perfect birthing center in terms of how like they give you the power. Like they tell you like here's the procedures that we usually do, like that our insurance your insurance asks us to do and whatever, but you don't have like you don't have to do it. um, they always give an option for pretty much everything, so that was really nice and I felt really safe there. um, and also because we had just moved to a new property when I first became pregnant, and we didn't have a house or anything. We still don't have a house. We live in like a 10 by 12 little cabin thing. um,
It's a house.
It's a house,
I've seen the photos.
it's beautiful for sure. It's cozy. We call it
It's
the
a
nest.
small house. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a small house. Um, it's like a bedroom. Um, but so that part too, and I was like pretty sick in the beginning of the pregnancy, and it was really cold and rainy and all these things. So it did feel really nice to like go and be nurtured by some women, especially
Totally.
being new to an area. Um, it was comforting, and I enjoyed going there.
I
So.
mean, that's the thing. Like, who wouldn't love being nurtured by wonderful women? Like,
Mhm.
we all, I think, innately just crave that in this
Mhm.
society that super lacks that. Obviously, I'm a broken record. The super bummer, is that they're like often, not always, but often it's a wolf in sheep's clothing, where
Right.
it's this like really confusing dynamic where they're medical, but you don't realize they are, and they're not practicing informed consent, but you don't really realize it. And I'm not saying that that was the case for your experience,
Right.
but for so many, it's, we're so aching for, especially in our first pregnancy, aching
Mhm.
for some guidance and some love. And a lot of us are estranged from our moms, or don't have elder women in our life. And so it's, I mean, it just sounds like you were feeling a very pure version of that, which is so refreshing.
Yeah, I'm really, really grateful, especially hearing other experiences with midwives and things.
Mhm.
Um, they're yeah, really wonderful. All of them. There's four there, or three in an RN, and they're all like, you know, pretty radical in terms of a midwife. Um, so yeah, very grateful for that. So let's see, I went there. It was great. My pregnancy was pretty good. I was sick for most of the time, until like probably towards the end. I started to feel a lot better. Um, I walked every day. I did spinning babies exercises as much as I could, all that good stuff. And I just educated myself a lot. And like I said, I had fear now of like having a free birth. So I started to fear what other people would think. Also, if I told them I was going to have a free birth, and just like I don't know, I really realized throughout this pregnancy and like now being a mother how much I am like uh, afraid of um, like making other people uncomfortable.
Oh, wow.
And
Says the free birther that lives in lives off the grid, and it's just so interesting.
I know,
So
but I realized how
wow.
much I like don't, want to deal with confrontation or just say no or like set boundaries and all these things.
Mhm.
I'm like been something I'm really starting to look at. Um,
Also, like, no one wants to set boundaries, no
yeah,
one wants to, I don't think that any of us want to be confrontational, but I
totally.
think like what you're speaking to is, especially the more radical we live, we kind of have to grow into getting comfortable with it, or at least accepting of it.
Right, and just, like, not, taking it so personal if someone disagrees with me or doesn't like me because of my opinion,
Mhm.
um, so, yeah, I've been really taking a look at that, but especially during the pregnancy, I just really didn't wanna deal with confrontation. I didn't wanna, like, experience stress and, like, whatever, so I just I had a pretty peaceful and mellow pregnancy, but the whole time, I hadn't made a decision if I was gonna free birth or give birth at the birth center. And also I think so I could like tell everyone else around me, all my family, all my partner's family, that I was having this birth center birth, so no one like put their stresses and fears on me. uh,
Mhm.
so that was kind of nice. But I knew that in the third trimester I would like finally make a decision, and I knew that decision, but I just kind of like still was playing this like I wasn't sure yet, I guess. Because I didn't feel fully safe with that decision yet, I guess. I was still moving through the conditioning and my mother's birth story and all of that stuff. So I guess we'll fast forward to the third trimester. Um, I was 33 weeks pregnant when Tyler, my partner, was finally like, okay, I think it's time for you to make a decision, so we can plan accordingly, like so we can kind of get, some things ready.
Mhm.
And I was like, "Okay, like, you're right. I'm gonna free birth. Done." And he was like, "Okay." So we, yeah, just started, just to get into that mindset and really, like, just, doing, like, all this unseen kind of work that needed to be done for this incredible thing that was gonna happen.
Mhm.
And I called one of my best friends, Shay, who's also a doula but had never been to a birth before, and decided like I've, felt into it and I felt like I wanted her to be there. So I asked her if she would come out from Colorado and attend my free birth. And she was also helpful with me making like helping me feel confirmed and confident in my decision of
Mm.
free birth because she fully supported that also. Um, so she said yes, so that was awesome. And then at 36 weeks pregnant, I attended this meditation course in Ashland, Oregon, which was for um, only like pregnant women, or supposed to be only for pregnant women. And it was a 10-day Vipassana silent meditation course with movement involved and really nutritious food and just like so nurturing. And
What a gift.
Yeah,
It's so
amazing.
amazing to have that. And when you were in the early parts of your third trimester?
Yeah, so I was 36 weeks when I went to the meditation course. I was 36, 37 weeks.
And how
Um,
were you heading into that? I mean, that's pretty far along. How were you
yeah.
entering? I mean, at that point, you're in your birthing window. Where were you landing on? You had aligned with free birth, and where were your fears falling? How was that all feeling?
Um, I still definitely had some fears about the like potential things that could happen giving birth in terms of like the safety of my child. And one of the things that was sticking out, like I guess I guess I didn't know quite exactly where I was before I went into the meditation course in terms of like where my fears, what they were, and where they were stemming from.
Hmm.
Um, and I didn't know what was gonna like come up for me or what was gonna happen in this retreat or this course rather. Um, and I just kind of went into it very humbly and like receptive, the same way I did with birth. Um, just like having a deep respect for whatever it was that was going to like arise in this 10 days of silence. And um, and I also felt like pretty confident. I'm like, I could give birth while I'm there and like and I'll be
And
fine.
you'd have to be silent and not and make any eye contact with anybody.
Yeah, totally. I was like, I'll be fine and I'll be supported and whoever is there is meant to be there and it'll be great. And Tyler can make it to Ashland on time and maybe actually he wouldn't have been able to because my birth was only 5 hours. So um
Maybe it would have been longer if you were stressing that your man wasn't around, though. Who
yeah,
knows?
maybe for sure. For
Okay, so
sure.
you're at this amazing, and I think it's worth mentioning that it's you and I happen to have a little backstory here because
Yeah.
it's run by a man who's a dear friend of my dad's, and it's total coincidence that um, that you went to this thing that I happen to know about because it's a very small thing, but it's
Yeah.
cool because they call it K-pasana, not Vipassana, because it's a well, you've done it, so you could speak to it more than I can. But my understanding of it is that it's like a relaxed version of Vipassana because
Totally. He said
even
it's called Pasana because he's Mexican. So
yeah, exactly. I love it. I love it. And
so it's
that traditionally in Vipassana, pregnant women do not do that. That is
right.
not a they're not, I don't know if allowed is the right word, but it's definitely not like you don't do that when you're pregnant.
Yeah, it's not suggested.
Mhm.
But
So
yeah, so we
but
were
neither
doing
neither is anything.
right. Yeah, yeah, exactly. You
You
can't
pretty much should just lay in bed and not do anything when you're pregnant according to our society.
pretty much,
Yeah.
pretty much. But yeah,
So
so it was like 7 hours a day of meditating and then plus yoga and some other movement and massages and acupuncture and Watsu and just like okay, amazing, and all for free, by the way, or donation based. Jorge is just incredible. So yeah, super gift. I went there not knowing what was going to arise, but it felt just so right. I knew that I like needed to be there, and the right just things were just it was just a perfect preparation. So I was having some pain when I first was going there. Belly tightness, my hips were hurting, my low back was hurting, um, just kind of like the stereotypical third trimester pregnant woman. Um, and I was like, how am I going to sit for 7 hours a day, you know? But I'm there, and just as I allowed myself to really drop into this meditative space, um, and my fears started to arise and show themselves to me like more clearly as to what they were. I kept having these visuals of um, a child being born with a cord wrapped around his neck and him not being able to breathe and all these things. And I was really able to get to the root of what that was. Some of it being just like passed down trauma from my mother. Um, some of it from me, like I spoke to earlier, of like me not really having a voice, I guess, or like kind of wrapping my own cord around my neck. Um, all kinds of things started to arise, and as I was able to really locate the root of these fears, the pain started to lift. um, And by the time I left the course, I didn't have any pain. I was like totally felt so good. I could move and stretch and dance and walk and sit down for 7 hours a day without like any aching.
Wow.
Um,
And you think it was directly related to the meditation and the work of processing out your facing your stuff and
yeah,
processing it out?
absolutely.
That's amazing.
I for sure think that. I'm sure a little bit of body work and acupuncture helped too, though.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, even just taking the time at such a significant time frame. I mean, 35, 36 weeks, that's a powerful time to be pregnant. I mean, every time is powerful, but I
Yeah.
particularly remember that for me was when I had my one and only freak out and my yeah, just being like, oh fuck, okay, like I could give birth any day. I could give any birth any day, or it could be 2 months from now. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
and to what a powerful thing to take that time and go sit and shut up and be and
Mhm,
oh my gosh, wow. And of
mhm.
course it was transformational.
Yeah, for sure. And I
Okay,
got
so
and
oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say in the Watsu experience of like I've felt like I was, if you don't know what Watsu is, it's like this water. I know you know what it is, but if the listeners don't know what it
Mhm.
is, it's like a water therapy kind of. And I think the idea is really to feel like you're in the womb again. In a way. And the man who was the practitioner was just incredible the way he was moving me around, and I felt so connected to my son than ever before. And I
Hmm.
had done like, and then I was able to kind of like go in and do this kind of like energy work in unwrapping the cord around his neck, even though I know that's not dangerous. It like helped me release those fears. um and it's not typically dangerous, I should say, I guess. uh and yeah, so anyways, it was amazing. And leaving there, I was just so grounded and so centered and so calm. And I just like reset, really. I felt like
Mhm.
just on a like an energetic and biological level, it was like cell regeneration. And I know it was helping Koa feel ready. I could feel him dropping like down deeper and deeper as I was
Hmm.
there. He was like feeling safe to come out. And yeah, so I flew home, and Shay came like a few days later, I feel like, and I continued this practice with them. We would get up every morning and we would all meditate together, me, Tyler, and Shay, and for at least like 20 minutes, sometimes a little shorter, sometimes a little longer, but just like getting in that space together, centering together, tuning into each other, just kind of like creating this energetic grid between us,
Mm.
this flow, this like this communication without having to speak. Um,
How reverent.
yeah, it
That is
was
so cool. I mean,
so
there really
powerful.
isn't a cooler, smarter way to prepare your team. My
Hmm.
God, it's like Jedi preparation
Yeah.
to all get on the same page. And, for anyone who hasn't been to a undisturbed birth or a relatively undisturbed birth, it's hard for this to happen in a hospital, but I've seen it happen at almost every home birth I've been to. Something just so psychic occurs where everyone
Hmm.
like links up and you don't have to talk. It just kind of unfolds and it all just works, and everyone knows how to center the mother and be around each other. And so it's just so cool to have done such intentional and respectful preparation by way of meditation.
So after we would meditate, this other, I feel like, really important part that Shay had brought into our kind of circle, our dynamic, was we would speak our intentions, our needs, and our desires for that day. So just like really getting on this communicative type of space with each other. Um, and yeah, it was awesome. We all could then like have this nice flow throughout the day and knew what each other needed. Sometimes like Shay needed her own space, sometimes Tyler needed her own space. It was like everyone was doing this like, this deep internal work preparing for this ceremony pretty much that, is going to occur sometime soon that we don't know when.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, so we're doing that. Super amazing. Um, Fast forward, Shay was here for about 2 weeks before I gave birth. So that was great. We all were like just so tuned in by then. And also, while I was in the meditation course, I had this kind of vision come to me of building a drum for Koa and writing a song or like channeling a song that would then beckon him to come. It was like kind of bringing him forth. So I had made a drum and just kind of waited until it felt right. I set up an altar, like a birth altar, and then um, wrote this song that or channeled it or whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
that was kind of bringing Koa forth. So I did that, and the next morning I had bloody show, um, and so we all
Right
knew it
after
was
the
happening.
drum.
Yeah, literally the next morning, and but I wasn't in labor yet. I didn't have any contractions or anything. Um, so we just spent the day together. I thought maybe I'd go into labor that night or whatever. We just kind of went with it. We took a nice long walk. We live on top of a hill. So we walked all the way down to the bottom of the hill, which felt symbolic, kind of like bringing him down.
Totally.
Um, and yeah, so that night was the night that Elon Musk's spaceship like went off or whatever, a satellite, which was pretty funny. I don't know. It was like we didn't know what it was. We don't watch the news or anything. So whatever, it felt like Koa was coming down on this like magical meteor star. So we go to bed, and I knew I'd be going into labor soon. So um, I woke up Tyler in the middle of the night. We made love. And about 2 hours later, I woke up having contractions. Um, and I just like went back to sleep, just kind of didn't mind them any attention, just let them be what they were, and knew I needed to get rest because it could be a long day. And woke up again probably about 2 hours later, and now they were pretty strong. Um, and I like strong, so strong that I had to like breathe through them. And I tried like a few different things. I tried like counting my breaths. I tried um, like uh, like counting the contraction, whatever. And then I tried just completely being with it, completely not focusing on my breath, not focusing on something else, like just feeling it all. And that felt really good. That felt like the most easeful for me. And so I just kept doing that. And then we got out of bed. Shay came over, told her that I was having contractions. She was super excited. Um, we all sat down to meditate, and they were intense. Like they were pretty heavy rushes at this point. And I just, I sat in meditation and just really fell into them and said that these four little mantras that Jorge had introduced to me at the course, which was I am well, I am peaceful and at ease, I am happy and content, and I can't think of the other one right now. But what really stuck with me was I am peaceful and at ease. Um, that just felt really, really good. So as they would come over the rushes, I would just be and say to myself, I'm peaceful and at ease, um, and just kind of melt into it. And that felt just, it was just was what, I didn't come up with mantras ahead of time of what I would say and do this and do that. I just really went into this birth being totally open to whatever was going to arise. So this was like the mantra that kind of stuck with me throughout the entire birth. Um, and by the end, I was like on all fours and just kind of like took some time to myself. They left and went to the trailer. That's where we like have our kitchen and bathroom. And I just took like, 5 minutes or so to myself. And then knew I needed to get some food.
Hmm.
And Tyler was like leaving because I thought I wanted to plant flowers while I was in early labor. That was like, but I guess I did. That was kind of part of like somewhat, I guess if I had a plan, that was it. Like, oh, we're gonna plant flowers and build Yoni steam boxes.
That's
Was
cute.
like my yeah, that was my like that would be nice. Even though by the time I was like in labor, I knew that wasn't going to happen. But
Sure. But
Tyler,
you never know. If you have like those long extended early labors, it's nice
right?
to,
Yeah, something could happen.
you don't want to be
Um,
sitting around twiddling your thumbs.
totally. And I think Tyler just also intuitively knew that for whatever reason he was supposed to leave. Um, for a couple hours because we live far from any like kind of town. So he was gone for like 3 hours almost.
What kind of flowers did you want him to get?
He got mums.
Mhm.
So that
Cute.
was what he got. But yeah, he was gone for 3 hours. So that was over half of my birth, half of the labor at least. And
Point of
yeah,
the story, kick your men out.
but he was
Thanks,
amazing,
Tyler,
and
you're amazing.
he is amazing. And that was his, like, it was just perfect. Um, and yeah, so Shay made me some bone broth or like got some prepared for me. And I like texted my friends who I did want to be informed that I was in labor so they could light a candle for me. And by the time I like got my phone to text them, I was like pretty like I was, to the point of not really being able to speak. So all I could text was today's the day. Um, so texted that out to the people I wanted informed,
Cute.
the people whose like support and love I wanted around me that day. And yeah, I was outside walking around barefoot, just like sipping on my bone broth and getting to the point of needing to hold on to things. As the rushes came over me, I couldn't like hold myself up and I couldn't speak. And I was just kind of trying to walk around. There was a deep like heaviness, tightness in my abdomen. I went over to our little nest. I was like outside on Tyler's saw tables because he was like still building stuff for us at the time, and that was like the perfect height as I that I needed to lean over. Shay came over and was like, "Hey, should we get your room prepped? Like, put a bed sheet on in case you want to get on the bed and whatever." And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Like, go for it. Like." Do whatever you gotta do. So she like prepped the room and then she just, she was like, okay, I'm gonna go over to the trailer and like just prepare you some food for after the baby's here. I said, okay. So I was by myself and it was perfect. That was like exactly what I wanted. Um uh and I all I needed was like, not even that I needed it, but their energetic support was nice. And they didn't ask me any questions, like they didn't ask me what I needed or whatever. They
I
just
mean,
knew if I needed something, I would ask for it.
it
Um,
makes me feel or makes me think of the role of the shaman as I've known it, and I
yeah,
know there's a lot
right.
of different iterations and a lot of different ways that shamans are used and whatever. But in my experience, in my exposure to shamans that I've been exposed to,
Mhm.
that's like what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're just holding and tuning in and being fucking psychic and keeping dark energy away. And
Mhm.
the first ayahuasca ceremony I did, I remember this feeling of, I mean, I just started bawling when I kind of put together that birth keepers were like birth shamans, that
Right.
was what I had been doing for so long, of just holding and listening and knowing how to be.
Mhm.
And that was something that I hadn't really had for myself yet, because I hadn't experienced birth yet.
Mhm.
And so to have experienced it with the women who I sat with, yeah, I just remember like piecing that together and being like, oh wow, like that is the
Totally.
space, like it's this portal protector
Right.
energy
And
that we
so similar to like a death keeper as well.
it's the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, which Shay and I did a death doula training together, like a year before or
Mm.
something like that. And yeah, in the a death that I've attended, that was also where I realized like it was in a hospital and I realized like birth or death, I don't want to be in a hospital.
Oh yeah,
Um,
for sure. Yeah.
and just yeah, just to be held and loved. So I was by myself. I found myself this little corner of our room. I was leaning over on this stool. I was trying to lay down in between the rushes, like just trying to get rest because I didn't know how long I would be in labor. By this point, I really couldn't lay down. I want to say that I was like, I didn't time anything ever, but I want to say they were like a minute or maybe even like 30 seconds apart, like that quickly. Because I really couldn't lay down for anything longer than that before another one would come over. So
Yeah, 5-hour birth.
yeah,
You
so I
had
was just
things were
in it.
happening.
Yeah, things were really happening. So I was in it, and as everything would come over, like I said, I was just peaceful and at ease and moving with it, and I felt so good. I felt incredible. Like I didn't really feel pain. Like my back hurt, I had like low back labor, but the rushes themselves were like exhilarating and powerful, and I was like transmuting these crazy waves into sound. Mostly, like in this, got into this rhythmic chanting like thing, um, that kept this like steady 4 count chant for the entire um, labor, I want to say, until transition. And I was also like dancing. I was like jumping up and down, kind of like twerking, like shaking. I had one leg lifted up behind me, like shaking it like I was like a dog peeing or something. Um, and was just in this primal rhythm. And I was having fun. I was like literally having fun. And at one point I was like my kind of thinking mind came in and was like, am I having fun? Like, what the hell? This is awesome.
This
Um
isn't anything like I heard.
yeah, what? I kind of, yeah, I didn't
I mean,
expect.
isn't this the great lie? Like right
Yeah.
here. This is the great this is the deepest betrayal that our
Mhm.
society has done to us,
Mhm.
that that maybe interpreted as sounding nutso, for saying that you enjoyed your labor or that you actually had fun.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, we know so many women. I mean, think of Alexandra, right? We know so many women
Yeah.
who birth in total euphoria. And
Mhm.
it is not luck. It is deep intention and organization and creating an optimal environment and having a positive, like, allied relationship to spirit
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And just
and not being
being
abused.
right. Yeah. And just being receptive and like allowing, and yeah, not having a preconceived idea of what it's going to be. Um
And I should say, like, even I've been to plenty of births where women, they're working their demons out in their labor, and that's great
yeah.
too.
Yeah,
There's
totally.
nothing wrong with that. I've seen women birth where no one was doing anything to them. It was just their own journey with birth where they looked like they were getting skinned alive. I
Yeah.
mean, it
Yeah.
was it I've seen some really, and of course, intense births. I mean,
Right.
all birth is intense, but
Yeah,
and
just like
that's
ceremony, like someone
exactly.
like you see someone in ceremony and they're like in ayahuasca ceremony specifically is what I'm speaking to, is
Mhm.
like someone's really going through it while someone else is just like blissed
Is like
out.
orgasming. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah,
And it's like
exactly.
it's just yeah, whatever you're meant to work through at the time. And I feel like my whole life has been preparation for this,
Right.
birth, and I'll never know like yeah, I'll never know like what all went into me having this just like ecstatic, incredible 5-hour birth. I really don't.
Mm.
I don't know. I couldn't give you a formula. And then I thought to myself, like, oh, I hope Tyler comes home soon. And there he comes pulling up the driveway, which really incredible side note. I didn't know this until after Koa was born, but on the way home, Tyler saw a bird on the side of the road, and we like to pick up roadkill, especially birds, and it was this fully intact, incredible great horned owl, um,
Whoa.
a huge one, which later I read is like seeing a great horned owl specifically is a sign of an easeful birth
Mm.
for a woman. So that's pretty freaking awesome. Um, so he knew on his way home. We weren't texting or anything. He wasn't texting Shay. We were just all in trust, of everything. So he just had this like he knew everything was fine. And also sitting next to it, strangely, was this other smaller owl wing, just a one wing, a random little barn owl wing, that he like interpreted as being Shay, of like Shay was there as
Mm.
like this guardian and that everything was good. Anyway, so he gets home and he goes and checks in with Shay first just to see where I'm at and everything. That was one thing I asked, was that everyone just was like really respectful of the space and cleansed themselves and grounded themselves before entering into my space. So he came in and he just sat on the ground on his knees, and I put my hands on his shoulders, and I just continued my, like, dance and my, like, chanting, and I let him know, like, "I'm doing really good." That was what I said, "I'm doing really good," and that was pretty much our only exchange. And he told me later that he was just, like, envisioning being this giant boulder, just grounded,
Mm.
as I was, like, in this kind of just this feminine, wild feminine energy. He just, like, was this strong, masculine, grounded root. Um, so he was there with me probably for about 20 minutes, and then he was like, "Okay, do you want me to go set up the hot water heater?" 'Cause I thought I wanted to use our tub just to get a break from labor. I didn't think I'd be giving birth in it. Um, and we didn't have the hot water heater hooked up yet. So I told him, yes, like, please go do that. So he goes to go hook up the hot water heater, but I told him, like, hey, will you tell Shay to come and bring me like a wet rag and some toast? And he, which was like pretty hard for me to get out, but I could get out what I needed. And I could get out like I could ask for what I needed from them. And then I looked up, and sure enough, here comes Shay walking over with toast and a wet rag. Um, just so incredibly knew what I needed. And so they switched places. Shay came in. She gave me the wet rag. I tried to eat some toast, but I had really bad dry mouth, so I couldn't really eat it. And then she stayed in the room with me. She just intuitively knew that it was like a good time for her to be in there with me. And I would say water, and she would hand me this water with a bendy straw, and I would drink water. And I'd say rag, and I'd like use the wet rag, and I'd say toilet paper, and I'd like wipe this like slime coming out of me because I just didn't really like the feeling of it since I was like jumping up and down. Um,
Nobody likes the feeling of slime coming out of them. You don't need to justify that.
yeah. So that was like, so it was just perfect. And she was
Mm.
behind me. I couldn't see her. I was still completely in my zone doing my dance. And she told me later that she was doing the dance behind me. She was like right behind me,
Ah,
doing
yeah.
the same thing, just like getting in it, moving energy, just
And
being there.
isn't this like the exact example of why you want only your trusted homies?
Yeah, totally.
It's because you just can't get into that space with
Hmm.
strangers. It's
Right.
or maybe you can. I mean, maybe someone listening is like I did, but it is inarguably more challenging.
Yeah, it definitely is more challenging. Even in the beginning of labor, when Shay came to check on me one time, I felt myself get quieter just because I didn't want her to worry about me. But as it progressed, I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm letting loose. This is great. Um, and yeah, but someone I feel good, like being fully naked in front of, like twerking pretty much with like slime and blood coming out of me. Um, yeah, it was great. So she just knew what to do and knew to be there with me. And she was so perfectly like just holding such this beautiful support for me. And likewise, Tyler was by doing like the man things and like having the structure and setting up the hot water heater and like, just like holding it down. I felt so, so, so supported, and never once was I like touched or spoke to or whatever. It was amazing. So, yeah. So then my chanting and my rhythms and my jumping starts to lower down to the floor. My voice gets lower, a little bit like not as loud, slowing down. The chanting was slowing down. I was now like drumming against this wooden stool that I was leaned up against. I was like beating on it as I'm chanting. And I just enter this euphoric, incredible, incredible space. Like
Mm.
everything just looks like a dream. Um, just that like hazy kind of like yeah, like psychedelic euphoria, amazing. Um, and I heard the hot water heater click on. And I'm like, yes. And I'm just kind of laying there for a while, and then I call it to Tyler, like, can I get in the tub? And he said yes. And I walked outside. The tub was already filled. It was perfect. I got in the tub. It was the most incredible feeling I've ever felt. It's just like so good. And I laid in this warm water, and we had a hose running into it. So I was able to put like hot water right on my yoni. Um, as like these last contractions were coming over me, I didn't know I was in transition because I was just so in it. I wasn't calculating. I wasn't watching like where I'm at, blah blah blah. Tyler stayed there with me. He would hold me up through, like, the really intense ones. They're about, like, maybe 3 minutes apart right now, and I was getting these long rests.
Mm.
Um, so I thought maybe labor was slowing down. I didn't really know. I wasn't really thinking too much about it. Um, but then, um, all of a sudden, I can feel his head.
My
And
God.
there it is, and I'm like, "What the fuck?" You know? The sun was still out. The sun was, like, beating down on me in the most incredible way,
Mm.
and I was confused, I was like,
Sure,
how
yeah.
can this be?" I was not
Wow.
like, I thought I'd be giving birth tomorrow morning.
See, you are a smart little cookie. I hope that one of the biggest takeaways, I mean, there's a lot of great takeaways in your story, but I hope learn from Hannah Grace, learn from me, genuinely plan for a 3-day labor, genuinely do not think you're further along than you are,
Mhm.
and it will only work to your favor.
Yeah, like, I was just open for whatever, but, I more thought I would have a long labor than a short one. But yeah, so there's his head, and I'm kind of confused. I'm like, "What?" And, um, I kinda look to them like, "Is this right? Is this good? Like, is it his head? I don't know." Um, so I, like, asked Shay to call my friend Jessica who lives, like, down the way and has had a bunch of kids and all this stuff because I don't know. I was like, "Is this right?" And she calls Jessica, and by the time she came back from the phone call, like, he was coming down, like, I was getting my body was preparing to push, but um I still wasn't sure, and then, so Shay had my phone, and one of my dearest, dearest, dearest friends, Eric, who lives in Hawaii, who's like a father and a brother and like just, you know, we're just really connected. He texted Shay push in all capital letters with an exclamation point. And Shay looks at because he texted it to my phone, and Shay tells me like Eric just texted you to push. And I was like, okay, like I guess it's time to push. Like
Also, who randomly just texts push? Like, I love it because that's not, most people would be like, "You're gonna do great, mama," or something
yeah,
like that.
totally.
But who in
He was
all
just
caps just
so
says push? I love it.
right. He was just so tuned in, and he was one of the people I text that morning, like, "Today's the day." So he was just with us all day, and him and Tyler are really close too, so Tyler even felt like his support all day. He's also a medical professional, so that also, like, it just felt good having his energy there. Um, he used to work in the medical, like, in the hospitals. Um, and yeah, so it's time to push. And I just let my body lead. One thing I did ask Tyler and Shay ahead of time was to remind me to pant while I was pushing
Mm,
or like while that was happening. So we were all panting together.
cute.
Um, but I'm holding onto the side of the tub, just like roaring out over because we live on top of this hill over this like kind of valley thing. And I'm just like roaring. I wish there was a picture of me in that part of it because it was incredible. I was
Mm,
like, just, ugh, it felt amazing. Pushing felt amazing, like in capital letters. Um, and I don't think I even pushed for more than like 20 minutes. I want to say it was less than that. Um, and his head was out, and I was in the tub. And like I said, I didn't plan on giving birth in the tub. I thought it was too small.
mm.
Um, so I pushed him out while I was like kind of squatting, and I turned onto all fours, like that picture that I think everyone's probably seen.
Yeah,
Um,
the picture that went round the world.
yeah. So I went on to all fours because I knew that there would be more room for Koa to come out. I also knew that was like the most expansive my hips could be, just for like the smoothest delivery. It just felt right. So I turned over onto all fours, and we communicated. Tyler and I were communicating. I told him just keep him under the water, hold him as he comes out. Um, make sure he's good and everything's smooth. And I just let my body keep like pushing, and it was really easeful. And out he came, and
Mm,
Tyler passed him to me underneath my legs, so I like brought him to where he was in front of me, and then like slowly lifted him out of the water, and it was just absolutely incredible, like all amazing. And I held him, and then decided to get out of the water because it was kind of windy, and I just didn't want him like outside, too much. I kind of kept him like in the water, but it was still, the breeze was getting his face. So we moved inside into the nest and waited for the placenta, which didn't come for extended period of time. And I was like waiting for it to come. I'm sitting over this bowl. My dog's in there. My dog's like trying to lick all the blood off of me. And I'm sitting over this bowl. Nothing's happening. And all the like endorphins kind of started to like trickle away a little bit. And I was in so much pain.
Oh,
Um,
man.
so much pain. Now, like the birth was euphoric. I was painless, all the things. And then I'm like, like can barely lean over and all this stuff. And it was because my bladder was so full. Um, so full. I
Oh, right,
hadn't
because you didn't pee the entire birth, right?
I peed in like the last time I peed was probably like I want to say 11 or noon, and it was 4 now, and I had taken in a lot of liquids.
Mhm.
So, yeah, bladder was super full. I like probably my, pee backing up into my kidneys, like couldn't bend over. It was really hard to move around. Um, and we were all just like, waiting for it. I was just trying to stay calm and not get worried about it. I knew I sure as hell like didn't want to go to the hospital with a baby attached to me in my umbilical cord, like still, and all the things.
And let me
Um,
ask, around this, because this is, I think, a
yeah.
huge thing women worry about and think about in prepping for birth, without medical management.
Mhm.
What was it exactly that was kind of making your mind race? Like, you felt fine, your bleeding was normal. So was it just like what was making you kind of be like, "Oh my gosh, should I go or what's going on?" I mean, I understand you were in pain. That's
Yeah.
significant.
Yeah. Well, I'll say like when we talked about earlier, my fears of birth, that was something I had like that was a fear of mine that I was gonna have placenta retention, and I feel
Mm,
like I totally manifested it.
mm.
That's what I feel like. I feel like that was a fear I didn't work through, and I had, like, totally manifested it, is what I think.
And
Um,
I wouldn't even for me, I wouldn't even call what you had placental. I mean, I don't even know if I
or
think placenta
whatever. It
is
wasn't
yeah.
because I could feel it off of my uterine wall, and my uterus had shrunk down. It was not, it was already, like, it was ready to come out. It
But
just
also, I think that we should kind of identify that,
yeah,
as far as I am aware, the whole retained placenta thing is a obstetrical term and defined by pretty stringent, fear-based
right.
medical standards. For anyone who's birthed in the hospital or who has seen birth in the hospital, you know that most providers will give you a couple minutes, up to 10 minutes. I've seen
Mhm.
people call retained placenta at 10 minutes.
Wow.
And so, my placenta birthed at 2.5 hours. Yours did as well. That's in the free birthing world where no one's fucking with anyone. That is extremely common.
Yeah.
And, this opens up a whole nother conversation that maybe we don't need to get super into now, but just around, what is actually a concern, what is hemorrhage, what is
Yeah.
flags for hemorrhage, or do you feel fine?
Right.
Um, and your bladder is not a non-concern. I think it was very smart to be aware of that, because
Mhm.
uh, that can be a challenge,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That is a significant detail, but anyway, yeah, I just think this is an interesting piece because we carry, all of us being these first wave people to leave the system, we carry these terms and these concepts away from the system. Like, if you know my birth story, I
Mhm.
was convinced I needed a vaginal exam and transition.
Mhm.
That had nothing to do with free birth. That was my unconditioning or
Yeah.
processing out my stuff at
Yeah.
leaving the system and reorganizing around it on my own terms. And so I love, and I think it's so wise that you're pointing out that you kind of manifested this because it was something you were concerned of, and then it didn't come out right away. And so there was a really deep lesson in there for you.
Mhm. Absolutely. Like, And that was like in that little like the little thing I had written with those pictures, how I said like it renewed my vows. That was definitely one of them, of like remembering how powerful our thoughts are, how powerful, we really are as individuals. Because then once I realized that, with this placenta inside me, and mine, it actually took about 4 hours before it came out. But I remembered that when I'm like sitting there in pain, I was like, oh yeah, like I can ask this to leave. Like I can ask my placenta to be birthed. I can ask my body to birth this placenta, like, um, and that was what we did. So I just started to chant release like over and over again, release, release. And Shay and Tyler joined in with me. Um, and for about 20 minutes, I want to say. I texted Alexandra. I think that was the only person I texted, just like, yeah. And yeah, and then she gave me a bunch of feedback and all this stuff. So we just, and that was, the part of me remembering, like, yeah, I just need to like relax and let this come out. Like, I'm fine. I wasn't hemorrhaged. I wasn't this. I wasn't that. Um, I was just, had a really full bladder that was inhibiting the placenta from coming out. Um, and yeah, so we chanted release. And then a couple minutes later, my whole nose filled up with snot. And I knew it. I was like, yes, this is it. And I got up over the bowl and I blew my nose and it blew out the placenta. And it was amazing. I was
Did it
so
come right
happy.
out?
Yeah, it just blew right out, like, so easy. It hurt, but it was, like, so easy, and Tyler said it literally like, he said it looked and sounded like I had an orgasm. I was just, like, so, so happy. And then I peed, like, a gallon of urine twice,
I bet.
which was also the most incredible feeling. So then it was like happily ever after. Shay brought me a bunch of food and I just like ate and held Koa and nursed and um we all just laid there and it was just amazing. And then Shay was like, "Do you want to see the pictures I took?" And I was like, "You took pictures?" And I got to see these freaking incredible birth photos. I was just like, it was just amazing. Postpartum was amazing. Similar to the birth, I had done like a lot of planning in terms of like how I wanted to be taken care of. And I had company. Shay stayed for another week, and then another friend came for 2 weeks. Um, so it was just great. I told everyone, like, once Koa was here, I told them all that I free birthed, and everyone was pretty stoked. Like, my dad thought it was awesome. He was just like, "Yeah, honey, like, right on. Like, you always like." He's like, "You always somehow like do shit the right way." I wish we had done that. He said,
Mm.
I wish we had done that. I felt like I was really like healing my mom's trauma too.
Mhm.
And so that doesn't carry on into, my
Mhm.
lineage any further. And
So awesome.
yeah, and everyone else, like some of my other family was like, concerned or whatever, but everyone kind of knows like those are when I was saying earlier that I don't know how to set like I'm not that good at setting boundaries with people, I am really good with my family. So they all kind of know like don't really tell Hannah what to do because she's gonna do what she does. Um,
Yeah, family's some of the hardest to do that with, so congratulations.
Thanks. It's more like, people I'm not that close to that I have a hard time with it for whatever reason. Looking into it deeper, going deep, trying to figure it out right now. At like 8 weeks, I started to get like the kind of the like, loneliness and like grieving the maiden and stuff, but I was just like, once again, just allowed myself to fall in love with the whole process.
Mhm.
Um,
And that's the thing, right? Is that there's nothing wrong with grieving. Like grieving is actually a part of it. And so when you
yeah.
can say yes to the hard times and yes to the darkness and yes to the transitions and that and not like rush to reframe it or cover it up or be all bummed that it's happening. I mean, it's the
Mhm,
classic like all mental suffering comes from not accepting what is. And when you
mhm,
can just get into a spiritual and mental practice of accepting what is, well, then you're fucking free.
Mm-hmm.
And it just sounds like at every turn of your conception to birth to postpartum, you have genuinely integrated that concept and just accepted it. And you are an example, like so many women, thankfully, in our community. You really are a shining light of somebody who just said yes. And
Mm-hmm.
and in saying yes, you were able to generate a powerful and beautiful experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just like, um, part of why I feel like what I feel like or at least my um, purpose is, or whatever you want to say, why I came to Earth again, or whatever it may be. Um, I just really deeply feel like being embodied, being a human, being here is like maybe cliche, but heaven on earth, like where we come or where I'm able to have these feelings, whether they're sad or happy or grieving or ecstatic or whatever it is. The like just how incredible that is to be able to experience feeling. Um,
Mm,
and I, really try to not try, I do um, just live life that way,
mhm.
embracing the everything really. Um, and yeah,
And of
life's
course you're
awesome.
living a happy life. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I
Hmm.
love it. Well, thank you so much. It's so
Yeah.
beautiful. And I love how perfect those photos are, because it's just a little piece of that whole labor, but I think it contextualizes it. Like it gives a little touchstone for what that must have looked like. And I do wish we had a picture of you roaring. I can totally
Me
picture
too. That would have been awesome, but Shay was busy holding my butthole for me.
it.
That's why
Hey,
that
hey,
picture's not
that's
taken.
that's a big burn, and that's fucking birth right there. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing your story.
Yeah, thank you.
Air, water, fire, earth. Air, water, fire, earth. I embody your power for this birth. I embody your power for this birth. Great Spirit of all, Great Spirit of all, I hear your call. I welcome your call to open to love, to open for love. Receive the brave one from above. Receive Koa from above. That's it for today, everyone. Join us next week for another episode of the Freebirth podcast. Thanks for joining us, and remember, your body, your choice. Lots of love.